Hello, and welcome to another coaches panel discussion with GK Icons Academies USA. My name is Eric Eisenhut. I'll be your host today. Today, we are going to be speaking to the development area of our physical capabilities. And with us today, I do want to share the screen and put up their bios if I may. We are going to have a GK Icon Academies USA coach, Mr. Jesse Goleman. Jesse is the owner of Goleline. Goleline is a strength and performance company that's devoted strictly to goalkeepers. He is the goalkeeper coach at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. And as I mentioned, he is a GK Icon Academies USA coach and been one for around 2 years now. Jesse, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Eric. Happy to be here.
Good to have you, sir. Good to have you. Also with us today from the Keeper Institute, we have Tori Carsaro. Tori graduated in 2016 from the Moyne College, where she finished a stellar 4-year career as a starter. In 2017, she was named to the Sky Blue FC roster of the NWSL. Currently, she's a technical goalkeeper coach with the Keeper Institute, which is located in South Jersey. And she's working towards her CSCS, which is the top qualification or top certification, for certified strength and conditioning coaches. Tori, good to have you today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Absolutely.
I am too. And also with us today, Jillian Loyden. Jillian is the owner of the Keeper Institute. She is the GK coach for the Sky Blue FC within the NWSL, former United States national team goalkeeper, as well as a goalkeeper in the following professional teams: Sky Blue FC in the NWSL, Magic Jack, Chicago Red Stars, and St. Louis Athletica in the WPS. She currently works with many U.S. national team goalkeepers and is also a color commentator for ESPN. Jillian, welcome today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. And thank you for the reminder that I need to update my bio on our website.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, if you're okay with that, go forward. But listen, I really appreciate all three of you here. I am really excited to kind of get out of the way, as I was telling Tori. So I'm just going to start the conversation off with some basic questions, if I may. Jillian, I'd like to start with you. If you could just define for us, what is the physical capability development of a goalkeeper?
I think, first of all, first and foremost, I really want to I want other goalkeeper coaches to understand that this is not my area of expertise. I think as goalkeeper coaches, we're like the frontline technical help, we're tactical help. We need to be able to help a little bit on the physical side and the mental side, of course. But I have a little bit of knowledge about this, but I have other people around me who are experts in this. So I just want to preface with that. But I think there's two really big components of the physical aspect of the position. One is being able to increase your range. So whether that is your range in the goal, whether that is your range in behind the back line, how quick and how fast can you get out there, how much ground can you cover, and then as well as protecting the goal area on balls served into the box. So are you strong to go out? Are you brave? Are you courageous? All those elements tie back into the physical aspect. And then, so that's number one, is how increasing your range. Number two is, can you stay healthy throughout a long season, whether it's a college season or a pro season, which is 8 months. Can you take care of yourself, which also includes prehab, rehab, recovery, all of those things. So increasing your range and staying healthy will be the two biggest components of the physical side for me.
Nice. I agree with you with surrounding people who are smarter than you. I do it all the time. That's why Jesse Goleman was around me for numerous years, and he's moved off to Boston. But Jesse, before I go to you, sir, I do want to go to Tori with a question. When should goalkeepers, or actually when should players begin to think about focusing on their physical capabilities?
I don't think it's ever too early to start focusing on your physical capabilities. Just the way you're going to do so is going to look different. So if I have what we would consider our juniors, which is going to be like that 8 to 10, I'm going to focus on their coordination. Can they get up off the ground without their hands? Are they able and strong enough to maybe do bodyweight exercises like a push-up? Do they jump properly with good form where they're not going to be hurting their knees, like knees collapsing in? Are they moving left to right properly? And then maybe as we get older, we start to focus on some of that strength type work. I'm talking like somewhere around 14, we're focusing on maybe if need be, we're past body weight, we can start to focus on some adding in, dumbbells, kettlebells, and more advanced type movements. But like I said, never too early to start. Just the way you're going to go about it is going to be different.
Jesse, does that what Tori's talking about there, does that get into like the mechanics of the movement? What exactly from at that age when you're starting, what exactly are you focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, Tori's spot on. It's just it's all gonna be a case by case scenario too, because I believe every athlete's gonna develop a little bit different. So one 12-year-old might look a lot different than another 12-year-old, and one 14-year-old might look a lot different than a 14-year-old. So a lot of it is just going to be dependent on the athlete. But I mean, like Tori said, it's just going to be, you have to take it, and how you're looking at each age group and each athlete is going to be a little bit different. I'm glad Tori touched on the body weight movements for these young ages and the coordination aspect of things, because neuromuscularly, we're trying to develop that as well. So, simple lateral movements, little games that like tag, like I always mention, is something that's so easy, but it works on all these different coordination movements. And then, I know for me, like with my goalkeepers right now at the club level, I always start them off with simple little line jumps, just working, their ankle strength, their calves, their hips. And then I just have them hold the top of a push-up position as well. And, we do little stuff like that just to warm up, just to, they're little, just strengthening exercises, but they're good for all ages, but especially the younger ones, just to kind of start to build that foundation.
Jillian, do you at the Keeper Institute offer those types of strength and conditioning, like let's say call it a class, I guess, or offerings, or is that included in, say, like your training session?
So our programs are about an hour and a half, and Tori and our other strength coach have designed a warm-up that is a warm-up, but also hidden physical, like mobility and strengthening things. So our kids get a little bit of that. Some of our older players do go through some physical exercises in their training, but we're actually really excited because next week, Tori and Shelby will now be offering those physical classes to individuals so that they can get on a program to be able to enhance and strengthen some of the areas that they need to work on. So I'm super excited for them because it's a massive part of the game. It was something that I really struggled with as a youth player in my career. No one ever told me I wasn't like fit enough until I became a professional. And once someone gave me that harsh truth and that harsh reality, it was when my career was like, okay, a real turning point for me. So the physical part of the game is so important. But not only that, when I was a younger player, I played all different sports. I played basketball, I played softball all in high school. And I do think that playing different sports and different movements really did help me and benefit me when I got a little bit older, just because I was super athletic and super coachable, and I can manipulate my body in ways a little bit easier than other players could.
I'm gonna open this up to everybody because Jillian, you hit on a point that I get questioned about all the time. Eric, because you're a specific coach in a specific area of a sport, are you an advocate of one sport at a young age? And my answer is 100% no. Like both my boys, they're 10 and 13, and they're playing football, baseball, soccer, basketball. And I'm a big believer in that old school mentality. Currently, I see a lot of kids committing to not only a sport at a very young age, but a position at a very young age. Again, open to all three of you here. What's your recommendation to parents when you see that and when they push it saying, hey, I want to get involved more, the speed and strength component of this? What's your typical response to a parent?
I mean, for me personally, I try to encourage every athlete to play multiple sports. I'm a big fan of sports. I played baseball, I played basketball growing up. For me, basketball is the big one that I've seen similarities to, but I was actually just talking to a recruit today, and we were talking about this kid can launch the ball, right? And, we were talking and he was like, yeah, it's all from baseball. And I'm like, yeah, because in baseball, like from an outfielder's perspective, they teach you how to get more power and longer throws. So, and I was talking to another coach a few weeks ago. I said, the best goalkeeping training for kids that are 9, 10, 11 is just playing other sports. I mean, you can when these kids start to develop, they'll learn technique quickly just from the cross training from other sports. So, I mean, my answer is always going to be playing other sports is going to help tremendously as a goalkeeper.
Cool. Tori, Jillian?
Not only from the standpoint of cross training is going to help me develop in this way, but also injury prevention. If we're constantly doing the same motions over and over again from the time that we're 8 and we decide we want to be an only goalkeeper to the time that let's say I plan on playing college, 22, you're more likely to have those overuse injuries, especially because nowadays there's no off season, like maybe a month in between those, like spring, summertime, or fall and summer. But the likelihood for injury when you do pinhole yourself that young is a lot higher, in my opinion. So you get the double benefit of, yes, I've cross-trained and I'm now adding some things from baseball, basketball into my game, but also I'm less likely to get hurt on those overuse type injuries if I'm playing other sports and taking time off in between seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that kids, if they are so in love with the position and the game, let's not hold them back. If they just love it and they eat, breathe, goalkeeping and football, let's let them play like goalkeeper. Let's encourage them to still play on the field in training so that they're getting, they're seeing different pictures. They're understanding how to solve pressure. They're understanding how to attract pressure. They're a little more composed under pressure. That would be my first thought. My second thought is, and I'm very curious about this because I don't know the answer, but if you look at goalkeepers who've actually made it to the senior national team, so Tony Miola, Saskia Weber, myself, Nicole Barnhart, Zach Steffen, Tyler Miller, we're all from this Philly, New Jersey area where we were raised and we couldn't play soccer year round. And I don't know if that's true for some of the younger goalkeepers, maybe like Casey Murphy, but from this area, we're forced to play different sport in the winter because when I was growing up, we didn't have indoor soccer facilities like we do today. So that could be a reason why all of us, grew in our athleticism because we did play those sports. But I don't 100% know. I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, honestly, me too. You got me thinking on that one as well, because I'm of the same area from the nation up in the New England area, and same thing. I'm going to date myself. I'm probably the oldest here. We didn't have any indoor facilities locations either. So it was, you're playing basketball in the wintertime. So you're getting that movement side to side from a shuffling perspective, and just that set position when you're playing basketball. You're playing defense in basketball. I use baseball and basketball all the time when talking about hip movements and moving the body to eyes on the ball while your body's going a different direction, things like that. Well, I want to get into, Tori, I'm going to direct this at you because you mentioned it a little earlier about age and like starting at a younger age, but using body weight. Do you find that there are certain movements or certain things that you will do earlier or focus on earlier meaning like at 8, 9, 10 years old versus weighting? You mentioned weights, but forget the weights part, like in regards to like what to focus on. And when I say that, what I'm really looking at is, just want to share the screen one more time here. When looking at this document, when it comes to a particular movement, when it comes to a particular mobility, speed, is there something that you focus on before others?
Well, Jesse started to touch upon it, but he was talking about neurological adaptation. So when we're talking someone who's young, like those 8, 9, 10, 11, sometimes even depending on the kid, like 12, 13. And then again, around that time too, when they're starting to mature, like we lose a little bit of again. So focusing on neurological adaptations, getting them crawling and working on that jump form, working on their movement side to side, like how we're actually shuffling to the ball, if we're just in the gym, shuffling from cone to cone or moving forward and back, sprint starts, deceleration, all that stuff, making sure your mechanics are right and that the brain to muscle connection is spot on is really important from a young age. And again, like I said, when you go through, like, sometimes you call it like your awkward stage of when you're starting to mature and you're growing and you don't really know how to use your body. It's almost like you not start at zero, but you have to start and learn how to use your body again. So I would say that's something that you focus on a lot in those younger ages. And then you can kind of make the movements more complex once they're ready for it. It doesn't even have to be an age thing. It could be, I've been in the gym for 2 years at 12, so now I'm 14 and I'm ready to add weights because I've progressed and I'm ready. But just neurological adaptations, focusing on proper movement, proper mechanics, and technique first.
Jesse, do you focus more on with an individual program, or do you keep more people grouped into like an age type of working out program? How does that work with you with Goleline?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think every goalkeeper needs a foundation. So, you're going to have different phases. And for me, my personal foundation phase is like, can they just move efficiently? Tori mentioned just shuffling to the ball. And a lot of times too, these kids don't really know how to shuffle effectively and sprint effectively and stop on a dime and backpedal and shuffle. Right. And, little things like that, for me, like those are going to be the most important things first, right? Just teaching these kids how to sprint, stop, start, shuffle, cross step, and all these different things. So from there, it's all foundation, and then we can start to build that strength aspect if we're working from a really young age, because that strength can always be built. But for me at least, I want to make sure they can move properly before I start trying to get them really strong, because we can always add that strength after while we continue to work on the movement efficiency. But for me, it's just like, shifting their weight side to side properly. Again, just being balanced. And that's a word that we're always talking about as goalkeepers. Just, can you have a nice center of gravity and be balanced when you're sprinting forward, and then you have to backpedal, and then you have to go for a cross and things of that nature.
Do you guys separate your programs between boys and girls, or do you guys co-mix?
Was that a question to me? Sorry.
Anybody. I'm curious as to how the plan is when you have a group. Do you usually separate it by sex, or is it always unisex?
No, I mean, you can always group male and female together. I think, just naturally in some cases, men are stronger than females, but for me, there's no difference. Like, each athlete has to learn how to move. I mean, for the most part too, I think younger boys are often the most uncoordinated ones. So for me, I've seen a lot of younger females being more coordinated than younger males. So, I think we can always group them together. It's just like with everything, even at the pro level, every person is going to have their own individual needs, but every athlete will always have that foundational needs of basics.
Yeah. Tori, Jillian, how about yourself with at the Keeper Institute when formulating training groups? Is there a certain strategy or a certain way that you go about doing it?
When it comes to the goal thing, there definitely is, and I'll let Jill speak on that. But strength and conditioning, like Jesse said, everyone's an individual. So if I have my preference, I want to create an individual program that's tailored towards you and like what it is that you need most and where your areas of our growth really lie. But when it comes to the goalkeeper training, that's Jill's specialty.
Jill, I'll ask you that then.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to us. What we try to do is keep everyone skill appropriate. So it doesn't matter what age you are, as long as you're using the same size ball and the same size goal, and your skill level is about the same. That way we can kind of stay in that flow state of training, that it's not too challenging and it's not too easy. Because as soon as you get out of that flow state, then kids get frustrated because they can't change something, or it's too easy and there's no challenge. So as long as everybody's about the same skill level, then it works for us.
Yeah, I'm in the same agreement. I love that. And even with training, when it comes to some of the stuff we do with speed and conditioning, one of the things I'm always emphasizing is not only the movement piece, but I'm also curious, Jesse, my stake on this, but Tori, I want to ask you yourself with Jillian as well. What's your take with upper body movements? Because a lot of times when we're doing movements, when it's a soccer team and the team's doing it together, it's all lower legs and lower body. Rarely do they get into upper body, hand quickness, hand motions. Is there anything that you guys do to specialize in hand movements for your goalkeepers when it comes to like speed and athleticism and quickness? And
Tori's definitely the person to answer this, but what we try. So here's my take is that I think that goalkeeper coaches have become like too specific in, all right, let's, I don't know, let's isolate some movement, add some strength into it, and then they'll figure it out on the field. Or they try to strengthen different areas that are super, super specific. But I don't really believe that that's the answer. However, I'm just a goalkeeper coach. And I think the big takeaway for me and anybody listening to this is to realize what your areas of expertise are, because this is not my area of expertise, and I don't try to create programs with plyometrics for kids to help them become stronger, fitter, faster, because that's not my area of expertise, and I don't know how the body works like that. If there's a hurdle that needs to be put into place just to teach someone a technique of how to push out of the floor, with a younger age who just doesn't understand how to push out of the floor, maybe I would use something like that. Or maybe I would default to Tori to say, all right, do they need to absorb the ground and learn how to, absorb force or whatever it is that you guys, how you do your voodoo magic with the physical side. But I think it's super important that as goalkeeper coaches, we don't make our training look like the American Gladiators, because we want to work on the physical aspects of the game.
I love that. I feel so many people are out there to put the toys on the ground to make it look like it's this awesome, crazy, professional workout. And in actuality, it's a jungle gym. And I see it all the time. You see it on YouTube constantly. And it's a very frustrating thing for me personally. But at the same time, to your point, you stay with what you're good at and let others do their magic too. And again, that's why Jesse was a very important part of our team, because he taught that part. And we would do goalkeeper training sessions and commingle it with the speed and strength. And at halftime, we'd switch. And it seemed to work. It did seem to work, and it was a lot of fun. But it does separate the two. Another component to this, and I'm going to throw this one at Tori if I could, diet. Do you guys get into diet at all with your goalkeepers? And what's your take on that regarding when they should start to speak to food intake and using it as quote unquote fuel?
I think that this is like a really important topic. I just got done telling Jill today that this is something that like speaks to my heart, like very closely. Just like Jill say she's not an expert on strength conditioning, I'm not a nutritionist. That is a field all on its own.
Yes.
So I have very minimal, like my qualifications in that are low. It's just what I need to know for my test. So I think that there's like certain things as strength and conditioning professionals we should know, and we need to be very like privy of and be able to speak to our athletes about. But when it comes to like the serious things and like, here's the diet you should follow, it's time to include a dietitian or sports nutritionist. I would say that like getting kids to understand the importance of feeding themselves enough food. I don't think that most athletes starting at a young age eat enough. So kind of addressing and speaking on that, like, are you eating breakfast? Are you making sure you're getting a post-workout or a pre-workout at like an appropriate time? And maybe if they have questions, like providing a couple sample foods like a peanut butter and jelly, or I know some people like chocolate milk after a workout, and being able to tell them like, okay, you need a carb and a protein, here's what that looks like. And then also speaking on hydration and how important that is. But once it gets past that, it's time to refer probably to a nutritionist or a sports dietitian, in my opinion. And also as coaches, being able to recognize if there's something that's not quite right going on, I think that's really important too. So whether it be you don't seem like yourself or it may seem like something might be up in terms of diet, I think that's important that we handle that with care. And if we feel there's something going on in terms of not nourishing their bodies enough, that we handle that situation with a lot of sensitivity and call in someone who can help them with that as well. Because I think it happens more than we even recognize sometimes as coaches.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, and even the passion piece of it. Like I'm very big into diet and understanding it. It's not my expertise at all, but I do find it to be very important, and I know it works for me, and I also know what works for me might not work for other people, and I'm okay saying that. Jesse, with college, do you provide dietary advice? Not you, but do you see the team getting dietary advice that goes along with their strength and conditioning?
I think every school is different. Me, just personally, being out of my scope of practice, like, I can't recommend anything. Like Tori mentioned, that.
Let me rephrase that. Do you see it at Northeastern?
To be honest, I'm not sure what that situation looks like right now. I would assume that the strength and conditioning coaches give guidelines. I don't know if they're registered dietitians or not, because but I know just as a strength and conditioning coach and just seeing it from a college perspective, they're always making it known to the athletes, what some recommendations are and what their guidelines should be. But again, like you guys mentioned, everyone's just going to be a little bit different, working with different needs and different dietary foods. And, I think it just needs to be understood that, food affects performance, whether it's positive or negative. It can affect your performance, your mood, your sleep, and, things like that.
Yeah. Jillian, thoughts on that? Comments on that?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of referring to when a coach told me I wasn't fit. And for me, it was I needed the opposite of what Tori's talking about. I needed to lose weight and really take my diet seriously. I think I kind of defaulted in college to just serving or just eating whatever was served and didn't know how to cook. And so I took up cooking, learned how to cook. I don't know how many macros I needed, but I knew that I shouldn't be eating ice cream and I should be eating like a lean protein. So that was basic enough for me. And I was able to get fit. And that was when I really started to add pieces to my game, and my game really developed because I wasn't injured and I was a lot quicker.
Yeah, I find in my experience that I don't start to see that dietary advice until college now. And that's with my experience now. I don't see it at the club level. I don't see it even at even with what we're doing at GK Icon, like a neutral training academy. That's something that we're just kicking the tires with right now. And that only reason that interest is coming is because parents are asking all the time. And I'm getting that consistent question. So to provide that resource is something I feel is valuable, especially with younger kids. And I think the earlier we can get them to understand, I think, Jesse, you might have mentioned it earlier, the quicker you get them to understand why you're eating and not just eating to eat, I think goes a long way with kids, especially the kids who take it seriously. The other piece was hydration. Tori, I believe you mentioned hydration, and I feel that that's something that just goes overlooked too. I see what kids sometimes drink after training or even before, and I really scratch my head on why they're doing that or what they're putting in their bodies, because you do see it first thing in the morning in particular when people don't eat breakfast and they come to training at a 9 o'clock session or whatnot, and all of a sudden you see them kind of going through the I don't want to say going through the motions, but they're lackadaisical, they're slow, and you can just see it. And did you eat this morning? No. Okay, well, let's learn from that, and let's try and get something into you that can help you with your performance, not wait till after the first training session. Cool. Literally one more question, two more questions, and then we're going to wrap up if that's okay with the three of you. One thing I'd like to talk about is the training plan. When setting up a training plan for a group, how do you go about implementing the goalkeeper training and tying in the speed and strength component? Tori, you mentioned you and Jillian kind of work together with that plan. What's the conversation like, and what's the final product look like?
I think it all starts with, what is it for? Like, are the kids coming in for a clinic, a 1-day clinic or a 2-day clinic? And we kind of decide, okay, what could they benefit from in a day? And if it's just a day, it's teaching them something that maybe they can move and use beyond that. If they're coming in for our 8-week programming, then it's, all right, let's devote 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes every week with something that can build. And I'm a big one for basics. So before I can do anything, I want you to be able to crawl. I want you to be able to do glute bridges, squats, single leg, double leg, chin-ups, push-ups, and we'll just stick with those basics. And then I'll create some kind of progressive overload through the 8 weeks, which might just be no weight. We just increase reps each week by 1 or 2. And just kind of making sure they have some core strength and building off those tiny little basics and trying to get at least 20 minutes once a week.
I like that. Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, Tori's spot on there. And just going to progressive overloading too. A lot of people think you have to keep adding weight and adding weight and adding weight. And, that's just always not the case. Like she mentioned, you could adding 1 rep every week, over an 8-week period, and you're now, 8 reps stronger. And then the more sets if you do 3 sets of that, right, you're just consistently getting stronger from that aspect. So, I mean, like Tori mentioned as well, is just basics. I mean, crawling is one of the best things you can get an athlete to understand, just how to use the whole body. And it's such a coordinated movement that is very challenging. I mean, there's just so many basics movements out there, like movements over lifts, that we need to focus on first before, before trying to dive into the fun, squatting and benching and all that good stuff.
When do you, Jesse, you both mentioned weights and just increasing reps as opposed to increasing weight. When do you introduce weights, and when do you start to put more weight on? And is that like an individual thing? Is that you wait till they start to grow as a human, meaning puberty? How does that work?
Yeah, it's all going to be a case-by-case basis, I think. Some, like we mentioned, some athletes are just going to develop a little bit quicker. Some are going to take more time. So case by case, if the athlete feels ready and, they're starting to mature, I think it's okay. But again, yeah, I think it's all on an individual basis.
Fair point. Jesse, I'm going to put the screen back up to the physical capability slide, but I'm going to give you a minute to 2 to summarize or give yourself your own conclusion if you can, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, the big things when thinking about strength, that, I think when we think about goalkeeping training off the field, I think everyone wants to focus in on plyometrics first and, diving to make those top corner saves. But at the same time, it's just like, how often are you really making those top corner saves in games anyway? But, let's focus on movement first. Don't focus on trying to squat as heavy as you can all the time, right? We need to focus on movement, applying and dissipating force through the ground, and really just training to try to reduce your injury risk, right? I mean, the best ability is availability. So, we have to use strength training as another part of your game and as another tool just to keep you on the field to perform at a very high level. We don't need to do the 60-inch box jumps when we can do just snap downs and vertical jumps that are a lot easier and probably produce more power from that. So just stick to the basics, keep it simple. And, again, we're training to reduce injuries, not to be these American Ninja Warriors.
Well said. I like the conclusion. Tori, may I have you conclude, please?
I think I'm pretty similar to Jesse. We're going to work on coordination, get you moving well, creating those neurological adaptations all the way from 8 to if you're pro level, but you need it. And then adding strength in those areas, hopefully to prevent injury, but also just getting stronger is going to make you more explosive. Like Jesse said, everyone wants to do a 60-inch box jump, but you don't need to. We need to make you strong, and then the stronger you get, the more you can produce that force. So keep it simple, work on those basic prime movers and build off of that, and then you can start to get a little more complex once you have that mastered.
Excellent. Thank you. And Jillian, I'd like to end with you. And from my words real quickly, I'm a big fan of the Keeper Institute. I love what you and Tori and the girls down there are doing. It's fantastic. I love your videos. Just want to say thank you, you and Tori, Jesse, you as well. But Jillian, if you could help us with a minute of a conclusion on the physical capabilities, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, I think Jesse and Tori really spoke to players. I guess my last final comment would be to coaches. And I think a lot of people who are watching or listening to this are probably youth coaches. And I really want to encourage the youth coaches to, what are your intended outcomes for your training sessions? And one of them most likely should not be fitness. As a coach who's on the field, a goalkeeper coach, I'm not a strength coach. My main outcome should be technical or tactical. And that's where I should gear my focus to. It shouldn't be, all right, let's hit the ball off of your foot and run and go get it for 30 seconds as fast as we can. And let's dive back and forth and run across the goal as fast as we can because we're getting fit. Let's use that time really wisely, because sometimes youth goalkeepers only see you one time a week for 1 hour. So can we maximize every single minute that we have with them to teach, to allow them opportunities to explore different parts of their game that they want to improve and develop. And let's leave the physical components to the coaches who understand and know how to develop that.
That was great. That was great. I'm a big teacher. I love that, just that word. Hearing you say that, it's not used enough, because I firmly believe that a lot of kids don't understand the little things with goalkeeping. And I think they need to be taught. I really do. I think they need to understand the basics, and similar to what they do with physical development, with strength and conditioning, they need to understand the basics. And that's similar. That seems to have been a theme with Tori and Jesse throughout this conversation. So I appreciate you guys, without even being planned, focusing in on one really consistent theme. And that was stick with the basics, and also stick with what you know, and don't try to go outside of your expertise. I'm a firm believer in both those things. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. You have no idea how much this means to me. Tori, Jesse, Jillian, thank you so much. All the best of luck at the Keeper Institute.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
You are welcome.
Thank you, Eric.
Jesse, have good luck in Boston, sir.
Thank you.
And everybody else, I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much, everybody.